wonder how many of you have an advent calendar? And if you have one, what sort is it? This one's mine. Oop. But there's quite a few of you who've got chocolate ones. Well, why do we have advent calendars? Well, some people have advent calendars, candles, and they burn a part of it every day. Well, advent calendars and advent candles help us to build up to Christmas. And I always think when I've opened that first one that Christmas seems such a long way away. And yet 25 days isn't really very long. It's just that when you want something really badly, it seems like a long time away. I wonder, do you know what the word eternity means? Well, just have a moment to think about it. It means infinite. What does infinite mean? To put it simply, something that exists outside of time. Time as we know it, time that never ends. Now I find that a little bit difficult for my little brain to understand. But to God, time is completely different. In the Bible we hear that to God 1,000 years is like a day. There was a man and his wife in the Old Testament part of the Bible who had to wait a long time. Their names were Abraham and Sarah. Let's watch their story now.
Do you remember Noah and how God asked him to build an ark and put in it his family and lots of creatures to save them from the flood? God needed people to help him make the world beautiful and good again and listen to him. So he found Abraham. He wasn't special. He wasn't a hero. He was ordinary, like you and me. He made mistakes, like you and me. Abraham lived with his wife, Sarah, and his family in a place called Haran. Abraham was quite happy there, but God had other plans, and God spoke to him.
I want you to leave Haran. I want you to be head of a new family, my family, and I will give you a country to live in and make you into a great nation. I will bless you, and you must be a blessing to all you meet.
Abraham was surprised, I expect. He'd hoped God was right. So when God called him to gather up his wife and his nephew, all their animals and servants, and travel a long way to a country called Canaan, he did. There was a problem though, because God had said to Abraham would be head of a new family. You see, Abraham and Sarah didn't have any children. They wanted children, but hadn't had any, and they had been married a long time. Many years later, Sarah was giving up all hope of having a baby. In fact, she was getting very old to have a baby. Then, one day, Abraham was having a nap when some strangers approached him. What Abraham didn't know was the strangers were messengers from God, because in the Bible we are told the Lord appeared to Abraham. It was very important to offer strangers and travellers hospitality in those days. So Abraham jumped up.
Oh, please, come and sit, and I will wash your feet. They must be tired and sore after your journey, and I shall get you something to eat as well.
So he and Sarah set to work. Sarah made lots of cakes, and Abraham and his servant roasted a calf, fetched buckets of milk. When all was ready, the meal was put in front of the guests. Abraham didn't eat, and Sarah stayed in the kitchen. One of the strangers asked,
"Where is Sarah?"
In the kitchen.
"We'll be back in a year's time, and then by then Sarah will have a baby."
Sarah was listening to all this. She must have thought, is this ever going to happen? She said to herself,
I heard we would have a child, But I have waited a long, long time. I really hope it happens and I have a son, but I'm old and the thought of it makes me want to laugh.
Then God asked Abraham.
Why did Sarah laugh? Is giving her a child too wonderful for God?
Sarah was frightened because this stranger knew all about her.
I didn't laugh.
Oh, yes, you did.
After that, God and his companions set off on their way. Sarah thought about what they had said and began to hope. And she waited, and she was probably excited. Then, after waiting another year, their baby was born, and they called him Isaac, which means laughter. Because if you remember, Sarah laughed, and I expect Abraham laughed and God had a chuckle too.
Abraham, like Noah, listened to God when God told him to take his family and all his animals and servants and move to another country. He did as God asked because God had told him he would have a family. But many years later, they still hadn't had a baby. Sarah thought it would never happen because she and Abraham were so old by this time. But when they were visited by angels, she overheard them say that she really would have a son, and she must have hoped it wouldn't be long. Having waited and waited, she must have been really excited. Just like you are, I expect, excited as you open each day on your advent calendar. We wait for all sorts of things. I'm waiting to have my hair cut again as my appointment was cancelled near the start of the second lockdown. Many of us are hoping that this whole virus time of waiting will end so we can get back to normal. But if we have to wait, we should use the time wisely, like we should use Advent wisely as we wait for Christmas. Now you might get bored waiting. I wonder if Sarah did. But what we should be doing is hoping. Hoping that when Christmas does come, so will Jesus come into our lives. God has promised us everlasting life when we accept him through Jesus. Remember that word, eternity, everlasting? Now I'm going to challenge you for Advent. I read that somebody said that instead of opening a door on an Advent calendar and taking something out, they were going to put something in. They're going to imagine a big calendar and put in a food item for each day. Then after 25 days, take it to the food bank. Now you might not be in a position to do that, but you could write something down that you're going to try and do on that day. Something that will be good and helpful to other people, nice and make their life a bit better. Maybe ring somebody up or send them a card or maybe tidy the garden. I'm sure you can think of lots of things. So as we wait, we could do something that will help others. Let's start today.